Looking first at the America article written by Gruez, what really stuck out to me and some of the things that I had highlighted that I want to point out was, quote, to this day, alternative theories of the naming of America, the continent, flourish. And furthermore, America is thus a product of the same misunderstanding that gave us the term Indian. And I do understand the concept behind that because of the potential issues with, like, well, why did we originally call it America, and why did that name stick, and what does it really mean, and how has that meaning changed based on the people that are really associated with it. But my question was, regardless of, it is the name now. So why does this continued try to, like, discovery of who coined the term, why, like, going through history and trying to find out where did this really originate, what is the point at this time? How will it change how we interpret or identify our own culture based on who actually came up with that name? Moving on to the Weinbaum article on nation, a really big thing that stood out to me was another reference to a previous theorist, Ernest Renan, suggesting that language, culture, and territory are not in and of themselves enough to constitute a nation. And I can understand this, especially in regards to a country like the United States, considered a melting pot, so not one specific language or the territory itself or a particular culture can really define it, because there's so many that are collectively being part of it. However, not every nation is considered a melting pot like that. United States is pretty unique in that sense. So there's plenty of countries across the world that I think are a little bit more inclusive about culture, and they don't necessarily, well, maybe not necessarily invite, but a lot of people from other cultures don't choose to go there, so there's not this sort of collection of cultures, in which case I think that language, culture, and territory are much more meaningful and much more determinant of culture in those particular nations. I also had some notes on the cultural theory book, specifically coming from Williams. This is actually just more of a comment that stuck out to me. He said that culture is ordinary in every society and every mind. So what I took from that is that culture is the norms, the things that everybody that's part of it sort of collectively accepts in everyday life, which I found fascinating. And finally, with the theory readings from Marcuse, quote, civilization is animated and inspired by culture. So I found it interesting that Marcuse is placing culture on top of civilization, so to speak. So culture is determining or inspiring civilization. And I kind of thought it might go the other way around, that civilization begins first, and then culture is sort of a derivative of civilization. And finally, in responding to the Vincent Harding podcast, which was a fascinating listen, when it comes to, this is a quote that I wrote down Vincent saying, so I'm paraphrasing here. When it comes to making multiracial democratic societies, we need to remember that we're new at it. I found that very refreshing, thinking that there was an acknowledgement that although there's all these struggles about race and culture changing, and especially in the United States, all the animosity, Black Lives Matters, and all these other movements that are happening, that there's some acknowledgement that this is still a relatively new thing that's happening, and we're not that great at it yet. So maybe there's some leniency as to creating cultural change and our participation in it, and maybe being able to allow for some margin of error there as we try to feel this out collectively as a community and as a culture.